Jacob Turner, a black engineer, showed up at his new job excited to lead a major project. But when a racist police officer tore up his work permit, the officer had no idea who Jacob really was, or the consequences that were coming. What happened next will leave you speechless. Let's begin. Jacob Turner walked confidently into the glass front lobby of Brightcore Technologies, the morning sun bouncing off his sharp charcoal suit. At 32, he carried himself with the calm strength of someone who had worked hard for every success. His neatly trimmed hair, short beard, and polished black shoes gave him a sharp, professional look. But underneath that cool appearance, Jacob felt proud. This was a huge moment for him. After years of hard work and overcoming the struggles of being one of the few black engineers in his field, he had finally earned a senior position leading a project that could change green technology forever. Outside, Officer Rick Saunders leaned against his patrol car, holding a clipboard and looking like he owned the street. His eyes followed Jacob like he was watching someone who didn't belong. The officer had been called for a minor parking issue but stayed around as if the area was his to control. When Jacob came closer, unaware he was being watched, Rick's smirk grew. Jacob reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out his work permit, a document required because he had recently transferred from London. As he unfolded it and looked toward the building, eager to start his first day, the sound of the paper caught Rick's attention. He walked over slowly, boots crunching on the pavement. "Excuse me, sir," Rick said, his voice full of arrogance. "What are you doing here?" Jacob looked up, frowning slightly. "I work here," he said calmly, holding out the permit. "It's my first day." Rick grabbed the paper and smirked as he looked it over. "Looks like something's not right with this," he said, almost like he was performing. Before Jacob could say anything, Rick ripped the permit in half and let the pieces fall to the ground. Jacob stood tall, controlling the storm of emotions inside. "That wasn't necessary," he said, voice steady. Rick sneered. "What are you going to do about it?" Jacob bent down to pick up the torn paper. "You'll find out soon enough," he said, meeting Rick's stare without flinching. The moment set the tone for what was coming. Inside Brightcore, the office buzzed with excitement. Employees moved toward the glass-walled conference room, whispering about a big announcement. Sleek monitors glowed with the company's logo, and the smell of coffee and clean steel filled the air. Everyone was eager to meet the new director of advanced engineering, a role that would lead a game-changing green tech project. Jacob walked through the lobby with purpose. His work permit had been fixed and was back in his briefcase. He carried himself with quiet strength, and people took notice. Dressed in the same suit from that morning, Jacob felt more determined than ever to take his place at the top. At the back of the conference room, Rick Saunders leaned against the wall, arms crossed. A friend in security had mentioned the meeting, and Rick took it as a chance to hang around. He was still replaying his earlier encounter with Jacob, grinning at the thought of the engineer being held up by red tape. But the room quickly fell silent as the CEO, a small woman with sharp features and clear authority, stepped onto the stage. The lights softened around her as she adjusted the microphone. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice strong and clear. "It's my honor to introduce the leader who will guide Brightcore's future. Please welcome Jacob Turner, our new Director of Advanced Engineering." A stunned silence filled the room. Rick's grin vanished, and his confidence crumbled as Jacob walked up to the stage. The same man Rick had insulted just hours earlier now stood under the spotlight, shaking hands with the CEO, calm and composed. When Jacob began to speak, his deep voice filled the room with ease, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Jacob's eyes moved across the crowd until they landed on Rick. Their eyes locked, and in that silent moment, everything was understood. Jacob didn't smile or gloat. His steady, piercing look simply delivered a message. There would be consequences. Rick's face turned red, his false confidence cracking under the quiet power in Jacob's gaze. The balance had shifted, and Rick could feel it. After the meeting, people slowly left the conference room, chatting excitedly about their new director. Rick lingered by the exit, the usual cocky look gone from his face, replaced by nervousness. He kept his eyes low, hoping no one would tie him to what had happened earlier. But Jacob had no intention of letting things go unnoticed. He walked toward Rick, his step steady and his expression calm. A slight smile appeared on his face, not mocking, but certain. Rick froze as Jacob came to a stop in front of him, his presence commanding the space. "Officer Saunders," Jacob said, his tone cool but firm. "Enjoyed the presentation?" Rick gave a nervous laugh, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, about earlier, I didn't know—" "That I was your new boss?" Jacob cut in smoothly, his expression turning serious. "You didn't need to know. What you did was wrong, plain and simple, and now it's been documented." Rick's face went pale. "Documented?" he repeated, his voice shaky. Jacob nodded, holding Rick's gaze. "Brightcore security cameras recorded everything. Every word, every move. Your abuse of power didn't go unnoticed. I've already sent the footage to the company's compliance team and the police oversight board." Rick's composure fell apart. Panic took over his face, replacing the arrogance he'd worn earlier. "Listen, man, I was just—" he began, struggling for a way out. "Trying to save yourself?" Jacob said coldly, cutting him off. His eyes didn't waver. "You made a judgment based on my skin color. Then you destroyed a legal document. That's not just wrong, it's illegal." Rick stuttered, trying to offer apologies and excuses, but Jacob raised a hand to stop him. "This isn't personal, Officer Saunders," he said. "This is about responsibility, and it's time you face the results of your actions." With that, Jacob turned and walked away, leaving Rick standing there, his pride shattered. For the first time, Rick truly felt the weight of what he had done, and what was coming. The consequences came quickly. Within days, Rick Saunders was suspended while the police department launched a formal investigation. The video footage and Jacob's written report left little doubt about what had happened. Word of the incident spread through the department. Some of Rick's co-workers were disappointed. Others thought it was long overdue. Meanwhile, Jacob's calm and firm way of handling the situation earned him even more respect at Brightcore Technologies. He became a symbol of strength and professionalism, someone who stood for fairness and courage. His co-workers, already inspired by his ideas, now admired his grace under pressure. For Jacob, though, this wasn't about revenge. It was about making systems better, about holding people accountable and creating a workplace and community built on fairness. Weeks later, Rick showed up at Brightcore for a required mediation session, a condition of his demotion and part of his sensitivity training. Gone was the arrogance. He walked into the conference room with a quiet, serious expression, lowering his eyes when Jacob entered. Jacob sat across from him, calm and focused. After a moment, he spoke. "I want to be clear about something," he said, looking Rick in the eye. "I don't want to see you fail. I want to see you grow." Rick's shoulders dropped and he nodded slowly. "I'll do better," he whispered. "I have to." Jacob reached across the table and offered his hand. "Good," he said firmly, "because real leadership is about growth and taking responsibility." Rick hesitated, then shook Jacob's hand. It was an uncomfortable but honest moment, a small step forward for both of them, in very different ways. As Rick walked away, Jacob returned to his work. His eyes were on the future. The past couldn't be changed, but its lessons remained, shaping the path ahead. For Jacob, it was a reminder of how powerful resilience could be. For Rick, it was a chance to start over and do better.